All right, we're live.
I think we're live. Can we get confirmation on a separate YouTube window?
Yes, we're live.
We did it.
We're live. We're live. It's live. I mean, we can see people
Let's do it.
comments, but pretty sure.
No. If you saw it, it's happening.
Yeah. With subtitles.
Steve Siegwald says we are live. Good to see you, Steve.
Hi, Steve. Okay, I'm not sure. I mean, there's comments that's on. I can turn them to be on the video, but in terms of subtitles, I'm not sure.
I'm not seeing subtitles either. I just got to speak a little more slowly.
Yes, we'll figure this out. This is good feedback, so we'll figure that out. All right, shall we get this party started?
We shall. Welcome to Practical AI.
Do you want me to keep the comments on? Like, you see them?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. Comments on.
I know, but do you want to be in the video?
Like, I like that too. Send it.
All right, sounds good. All right, hey guys, welcome to our second Practical AI video. And the last week, we've been scouting the internet for all the latest trends and news on what's happening with Practical AI. So we've got a ton of stuff to get through today, and we're gonna get started. Do you want to start with news, or do you want to start with some discussions?
Let's start with that first topic on the thing.
Okay. So the first topic is blogging is dead, but publishing for AI discoverability is the future. So what do you have to say about that?
All right. So one of the big talking points has been floating around this week from influencers in WordPress and other content generation spaces is that blogging is dead. Now, I have been beating this drum for a very long time. I think blogging has essentially been dead since 2014. That's when social media took over. Like, that's where the audience focus shifted to. We used to go to websites, then we went to social media feeds as our primary sources of information. Now, what is happening with blogging in the AI landscape is actually very, very interesting. The shifts that are occurring are sort of tweaks on old recipes that we've kind of been operating on for a while now. So it goes something like this. When you would blog in 2010, you were blogging, you would have, an RSS feed would go out, and you'd have an audience who would consume your content through RSS. People would regularly visit your website. You could send out an email and send people back to the website, but all the focus eventually was going back to these pages that you were creating by blogging. And then the second order effect of this was that you would optimize those pages for search engines and capture an additional audience that way. Like, if I'm going to cover this topic about, like, email marketing, something like that, I expect that this page will be relevant in that search space.
Mm-hmm.
All of those mechanisms are breaking down, or have been breaking down for the last 10, 15 years. So, for example, when you publish on your website, there's no longer really an audience of people with RSS feeds who are going to be coming back to your site. It's not really compelling to send an email and say, hey, go look at this article I wrote. That's less compelling than it was before. That really needs to happen on socials. That's the first point of contact for something like that. And then as far as SEO goes, organic SEO has been getting chipped away for a very long time by the stuff Google's done through the inclusion of more ads, making them more prominent. And then now with AI results, like Gemini and Bing is doing this as well, like, that is really taking over. Like, I can just be honest and say that if I do a search query, and I use search in limited capacity, usually for software related things, but if I do a search query, I'm looking at the Gemini results. And occasionally I'll be like, oh, I really need more information here. And I'll seek out, like, well, what did Gemini use for the sourcing here? And maybe I'll go look at that article, or I'll find something else in the links below and maybe go there. But increasingly, there's this shift towards what the AI says about the information space on a topic. And now
there's this new term that's emerging, right? Now there's the SEO, and now there is the GEO, which we're going to talk about that in a second. So can you tell kind of what the difference between SEO and GEO is?
Yeah, so the shift is, like, who were you writing for before? Before, you were writing for a human audience. Back in the 2010 era and the blogging and all that, even social media, that's for a human audience. But now, why do we publish? What is the point of publishing? The point of publishing now is for an AI audience. This is a critical distinction to understand. You might, like, at first glance, you might be like, oh my God, this is super dystopian and weird. It's like
So
that, the same sort of.
Say what GEO stands for.
Well, I'm getting there. So the AI audience is replacing the human audience. And so for SEO, you were hoping to find people, but GEO is generative engine optimization. And you are now hoping to appeal to AI scrapers with your content. This is essential. Like, you can have any reaction you want, but this is the future. This is how content gets discovered, is when it is formatted and delivered in a way that AI can receive it. Now, there's a whole lot to that, and we're going to unpack all this as the show goes on.
Yep. So before we get there, so a question is AI killing blogs, or is it just killing bad blogging? What do you think about that?
So this is going to be a recurring theme throughout today's show, but it is a refinement.
Okay.
It's a refinement. It says, if you want to win in this landscape, you must do this. And it's a series of refinements.
Okay, gotcha. And so let's talk about kind of what does that even mean to win, right? These days with the era of GEO, like, how do we win? So do you want me to kind of read a couple points, and then you can go crazy about that? So some of the tips that that I found, like, how do you win in this era, is how well your content is indexed and surfaced by AI models like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Perplexity. It emphasizes structured content, niche authority, AI-friendly formats, and multimedia integration as the new pillars of visibility. So this is directly aligned with PageMotor's mission to help creators publish fast, AI-optimized, multi-format content without technical friction. So what does that mean? Do you want to kind of talk more about that?
Yes. So what does it mean to win in the current landscape? Like what does this look like? I've been beating this drum for years now with a concept that I called attention design. And social media was the first big pressure that made it so that you had to start doing attention design or you were not going to win. So what does that mean? Attention design means we have to design and deliver our pages in ways that will work for the way human attention works. And so, real quick, I repeat this often, but it's worth repeating again. So back in the day, we would have blogs, you'd have content on the left and a sidebar on the right. And the sidebar would have like additional information, other things that might be of interest to you. And then you would maybe, browse around that stuff and go do that. People don't do that anymore. That represents a fractured attention. Are you paying attention to the content on the left, or are you looking for these diversions on the right? That mode doesn't work anymore and hasn't for a long time. Social media feeds have made it so you better deliver some serious attention-grabbing stuff, or people are going to go back to those feeds because there's a whole lot of attention-grabbing stuff. So attention design says you can really only do one thing on a web page. You got one thing, one concept to explore, one thing to try and do. Like, I want to get users to opt into an email list. I want to get them to buy a product, whatever it is. You can only do one thing. So the whole page must focus on that one thing. This concept gets extended even further with AI. It's critical. AI doesn't do AI can compile a whole bunch of data, and you can ask it a question and it can give you some results from that data set that are more complex than a simple search query would do. Okay, that's true. But to have that data be like super, super specific and relevant, the pages that it's pulling from need to be specific and highly relevant. So that this happens on a few fronts. Number one is just having these pages with only that. If you only give AI something very specific, that's how it's going to read the content. But if you start delving into other areas, it's going to muddy the signal that it gets. The muddier the signal, the less confidence it has in that result, and it's not going to win. So you want to be as laser focused on a topic as possible. So that's rule number one for new page creation in the era of AI. Another thing, there's another layer of all this called technical SEO. And technical SEO has been an important thing to have. Like, if you have a CMS like WordPress or whatever, the output from that needs to have all the ingredients for technical SEO. Basically, this boils down to markup schema, clean HTML markup, and something that is not talked about enough, but is coming into the prominence with AI, and that is the content to cruft ratio. What does this mean? The content to cruft ratio says that if you look at the HTML source of a page, this new page on your website about some topic, let's say there's 1,500 words of actual content on that page. But if your HTML source is something like 3,000 lines long, the content to cruft ratio is going to be like, there's going to be like 15% content and 85% cruft. If you give that to an AI, it's harder for the AI to figure out what the hell's going on. But so if you use a really streamlined system like PageMotor, that same page is going to be like 65% content and 45 or 35% cruft, something like that. A much better ratio. It's going to be so much easier for that AI to figure out, okay, here's the technical SEO information, here's the markup schema, the additional stuff I need, here's exactly the content. It's a much clearer signal. And really the whole theme here is that AI needs extremely clear, extremely well-defined signals to do a better job. And eventually the models are going to start favoring this, and this is going to become like the new SEO, the GEO, and these are going to be the components of it. Clean, clear markup, making sure you've got the schema metadata and stuff in there on the pages to let AIs know exactly what they're looking at, and making it easier for them to parse, to say, okay, I know that I've looked at this page with a high degree of confidence, and I know these are better results than some other set of results.
So if someone is still talking about the SEO and not the GEO, kind of what is it telling you? Like, what's the simple way to know if somebody's really getting the GEO versus somebody who's still kind of on the old train of SEO?
I would say unless somebody is talking about very specific things, like specific industries, like I'm an insurance agent in Austin, or I'm a lawyer in Austin, or I own a restaurant in some city. Those have two tie-ins, very specific needs that people have. I need an insurance agent in Austin or whatever. Or I want to look at this restaurant. Restaurants have local SEO initiatives that they must undertake. It's still relevant in those hyper-specific areas. If you are not that specific, if you're just taking a generalized approach, like I want to rank for some term, that's gone. That's not a thing anymore.
So you got to be very specific about those kind of words and don't leave it to chance.
Well, and like, what's the goal here? The goal used to be to get seen. Like, I want to be seen for WordPress themes. So I'm going to have content along those lines. That is not what we want anymore. What is the purpose of content now? So like me, the content I will publish for PageMotor and things like that, it's going to be a lot of documentation. That documentation needs to be useful to humans who want to look at this stuff, but really it needs to be useful to AIs to summarize it, to spit to humans, or to even use in coding models. So it's like a dual purpose thing, but really it needs to be useful for the AIs to be more useful to the humans, right? It's just like extra augmentation layer. That's sort of the thing with AI anyway. It's always an augmentation layer. So I would produce that kind of content. I would maybe have some sales pages and stuff like that so people can buy products that I would put out there. But that would be a second order effect of all the other information I put out there so that people know that this is something they actually want to buy. A lot of that first order information is going to occur in forums like this, like through video content that gets published on social media. This is stuff that actually reaches humans. And I think we just all need to sort of accept the shift that web pages aren't really human first anymore. They're machine first, human second. These are now an augmentation layer too. The AI sits between us and the humans who are going to consume it.
Got it. And some of the tricks that used to work for SEO, you got to evolve and adapt and make sure that you are.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no point like that, like keyword stuffing and keyword optimization. It's not like that. You just need really focused pages on a tight topical focus. You don't want to have some tome, some freaking huge thing that delves into 30 different aspects of things. Each page should really cover as specific a point as it can possibly cover.
Gotcha. One of the things that I saw this past week is the talk about Bing's rise in AI-powered search, and because I believe Bing is backed, or the AI that they use is ChatGPT versus Google is using Gemini.
Yep.
And so what I've seen is that usually like Bing used to be kind of like, Google is more important. It's very important to kind of, rank high on Google because of yada, yada, yada. But now what I've seen is that there's a big kind of trend that's going towards Bing is actually, it's not catching up yet, but it's making the moves to catch up because it's running on ChatGPT. So what do you have to say about that? And does it mean anything for people that are watching us and for their business, for them to think about? Is it pretty much the same in terms of how do you approach building and coding, or is it a little bit different?
So Bing has AI results like Gemini does. If you're familiar, like I assume all of us are familiar with the Gemini results in Google now. A lot of people are opting to use other platforms like Perplexity.ai as a replacement for search. But the larger trend that's happening here that I don't think has gotten, it hasn't been just described succinctly, is that search has been, for 30 years, it has been like doing a find inside a document. You're looking for the existence of words within a document in hopes that what you find will be relevant to whatever your actual query is.
Mm-hmm.
But with AI, we are seeing a very clear shift towards question-based search. We have a question. We want a specific answer to the question. Like that's really what search boils down to anyway, but we're used to doing this file find, which is real primitive. Like ask a very specific question, get a very specific answer. This is what AI offers us, and this is how search is changing. So whether you're using Perplexity, whether you're using Bing, whether you're using Google, this is what you want now. And the shift towards Bing is interesting because there is a bit of a usage shift. And the reason why is because Bing is engaging in citation. Bing is engaging in very obvious, very clear, upfront source citation. Whereas if you use Gemini, I mentioned this earlier, like I'm not sure where this information came from. I have to like look around at the links. It puts them up on the right and it gives you like a list of a few, but there's no clear like indication of relevance or how this would, it's just not that clear. Bing is actually much clearer on their source citations, and publishers like this. But also searchers like this because, like I said, you've got a summary from AI, but you're usually looking for something more detailed or you want to delve into that further. Bing makes that much clearer. Now, I do think all the AIs and search results kind of things are going to adapt to do this. But that citation layer is the thing right now for Bing.
So one of the things I saw was that 25% of searches could move to AI interfaces by 2026. Reducing traffic from classic SEO by up to 50%. And by the way, everything I'm saying, you can go after the interview and see the citation where I'm getting that from. It's not just me making it up.
It's in the description.
It's going to be in the description because I like my sources. But what do you? I mean, I think it's. I thought it's already a lot more than that, but it was interesting to see like it's not just like doubling or tripling. Like it's skyrocketing right now where people search. Like I almost never even use Google anymore. Like I use Grok to find certain things for me to kind of find in terms of what I'm looking for different things, even in Austin. So what do you think about that? Like reducing traffic from classic SEO. I mean, is that a bad thing, a good thing? Like what do you think about that?
I'm neutral on it because, like I said, it's the shift from a primitive find function to a very sophisticated question and answer thing. It's like you got to go out and hack on rocks yourself, or you can go talk to like Socrates. Well, I'm gonna go talk to Socrates.
Gotcha. There's a comment there if you want to.
Yeah, I see that. So Casey asks, do you think today there's still good reason to rank locally for local businesses and stuff like that? Yes. In certain functions, like certain things, like local businesses especially, you definitely need to engage in local SEO. That still has value. The stuff I'm disparaging is generalized SEO, like trying to rank for WordPress themes or whatever. Like that kind of thing is kind of ridiculous. That landscape is so wide, so open that it's not useful information. Like what use is a WordPress theme? What good does it do to be ranked first for WordPress theme? If anybody's searching for that, they're a dummy. Like people have very specific questions And so the growing landscape and the GEO landscape is about specific answers or specific information about specific queries. So we're now in the Q&A landscape, and that is just a different type of optimization.
So did I hear it correctly? So basically, it's kind of doing the reverse engineering, right? So let's say my company sells recruiting services. So I gotta sit down and think about what kind of prompts can my customer possibly run when they're searching for something like that, and then see kind of AI tell me like what that could possibly be, and then try to GEO my website for that, like sort of kind of like work with AI.
I think you brought up a great point there. Like, so what kind of prompts, what kind of questions, what queries would my potential customers be asking? So identify those queries and then have specific pages. I mean, as specific as you can freaking get. Right. About, an answer to those queries to provide extra information that's not going to be readily available or not going to be apparent to a general user.
So basically have the AI be the helper to sort of reverse engineer, like tell me exactly what I need to do to kind of like prepare for the GEO.
I mean, that's a pro tip. You're a pro AI user, so yeah.
Anyway, is there anything else on this topic before we move on? Because I think it's I honestly, another trend I saw is that there's a trend for web development kind of agencies. There used to be SEO, I guess, agencies, and now I'm just curious, like there's a trend to offer GEO services to really be on the front end, on the frontier of this. So there's opportunity for agencies to offer more services in that. I don't know if we have anybody here who is interested in that, but that was kind of an interesting trend.
Well, I mean, like a for sure thing that's going to happen is PageMotor. There's going to be a third-party plugin for GEO stuff, and what might this do? Well, the platform's already going to have all the technical stuff built in, so it won't be that layer, but it will be something like, okay, here's my topical focus. Here's the stuff I'm talking about. What are like the top 10 queries that I need to create content for? And it will tell you that. So instead of having an SEO plugin that optimizes your page and says, oh, this is good for this page, you're actually saying, what are the questions I really need to answer? Which is a more powerful exchange. Like I said, the Q&A thing is way better than the primitive find.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome. All right, well, let's move on. One of the things that came up in the forums this week, and I love our forums. Thanks everybody who's giving their feedback and sharing all that stuff. There's a lot of juicy content in there. One of the topics that came up was AI limitations in development workflows. So one of the guys in there was talking about how AI is such a yes man, and he realized that by studying the database himself, and that's what it made it click. I'm not technical. DB probably means database.
Yeah. So basically, he was trying to build this thing, and AI was just like, "Yep, let's go with all your original assumptions." Like, yay, you're doing this. But so this is a larger thing. This is not just code. I've noticed with all AI usage, no matter what, like if you bring a political opinion that's from one side to it, or if you bring one from the completely opposite side, it's going to affirm whatever you think. It's going to like rah your thesis, your assertion. And I think that's just crazy, but it makes sense for these LLMs to have done this. They build affinity into their models because they want people using them and getting validation. But if you're actually trying to do something significant with AI or to build something, you need to have that thing checking you all the time. You need to say, hey, AI, poke all the holes you can in my theory. Like, do not sit here and be my yes man. I'm not here for you to tell me my ideas are good. I want you to tell me they're crap and why they're crap so I can fix them.
So it almost has to be built in the process, like, because it talks about how it often lacks the critical reasoning to challenge flawed architectural choices, and it affirms whatever it is you want to affirm. And so it doesn't scrutinize them at all. And you and I, we get into our little debates on our date nights about like, well, why don't you use AI to help you build your code? And you always tell me about, for this reason, I guess, because you wanted to.
Yeah, so this is a great, well, I'll probably come back to this later in the show, I think, depending on the points we make. But a great way to think about this whole landscape is like interstate highways that have been built. And AI is not capable right now, and maybe never will be. I think there's actually an upper bound here. But AI can't build the highways. AI can drive cars on these highways and say, oh, we can actually get there a more efficient route. Like there's some other stuff possible here. I think that's going to happen, but AI can't build the highways. And what PageMotor is a system of highways for AIs and humans to use. And that requires a level of associative thinking and of organizational stuff that is well beyond the scope of AI. So this brings up a larger point about everything that's going on with the whole AI thing. It is up to humans to do these complex relational tasks, to set a landscape for AI where AI can be of maximal use. And so that our challenge has shifted. Like humans think in very procedural terms. We think, oh, a client wants this, I need to deliver this result to the client. Well, most of what is going to happen in delivering the result for the client is going to be a bunch of patterns and just rules that, you know, some wagey needs to follow to make good for the client. Most of that stuff, anything that's like that, like repetitive tasks, will be filled with AI eventually. But in order to get there, these highways must be paved by people who could actually do that. Like that, you know, the need for humans hasn't disappeared because AI is suddenly in the equation, but the need for what humans have to do is scaled up. Like we have to do a little bit better job. We can't just be doing repetitive stuff at a desk. It's not going to get us anywhere.
Yep. So some of the implications that came up were, so AI can accelerate the what, but still struggles with the why. Developers still need to directly interrogate source logic, like DB structure, to achieve architectural clarity. And there's an opportunity to develop AI that critically evaluates system-level decisions, not just syntactic correctness. So kind of goes towards what you were saying, but it kind of sums it up in the way that I like how it said it can help you with the what, but the why, it kind of depends on the asker, right? And one of the practical examples of how I use AI in my business, in my agency, is after every sales call that I do, is I ask AI, I kind of download the transcript from the sales call that I did, and I say, hey, you're my sales coach. I use Sandler as my methodology. And I always say, debrief this call with me. Tell me the good and the bad of what I did and how I can improve. And it picks me apart because I've given it permission to do so. It gives me all the good things I've done, but it also gives me a lot of things that are just like, this is what you got to work on and improve on. So that's my practical example that I wanted to mention, because then I actually have this for my next call to actually improve what I'm doing myself. And it's been very helpful. But if I don't say that, it's just going to blow, what do you say in America? Blow the smoke up my skirt?
Yep.
Yep. So, and I don't want that. So anyway, do you have anything else to kind of add on that?
I mean, just like if you're actually trying to be serious about AI, you need to be aware of this affirmation bias that is built into these things. And you actually need to want to be torn apart. You need to be thick-skinned. You need to want to know what the problems are. And that's where you need to operate. You need to be operating in the zone of, okay, what's everything that's wrong with this? That's the only way you're going to make any progress anyway. But Ken says, please give a no-holds-barred review to your LLM prompts when requesting feedback can lead to more candid, constructive responses. And this is the pattern I see. You, Ken, pro users of AI have already reached this conclusion. Like, I know I need this thing to tell me no. Don't just sit here and say, hey, you're great, gang.
So here's some data, and I'm interested to see what you think about that. So some study via Hacker News, METR, whatever the heck that means, it talked about, again, Hacker News, the developers were 19% slower using AI tools in familiar code bases. What do you think that means?
So that means, a developer would have some familiarity with the current operating environment. Like they know if I want to do this, I need to do this. But right now, everybody's trying to shoehorn AI into their workflows. So instead of just doing what they know they need to do, developers are fidgeting with AI and finding out this specificity problem, which comes up. We've talked about this in every show. We'll probably talk about it in every show now till the end of time. But if you want to solve a specific problem, or you can really only solve a specific problem. So you need to be real precise and only stay within these guardrails. But that is tough to do because a lot of these development tasks kind of touch on a few different things. Like you tweak this in the code, this causes a tweak in the HTML output, and then you got to do some design changes. Like there's layers to the process, which is not easy to tie together in a real sophisticated way with AI. It's not easy.
Well,
so developers are fidgeting with this instead of actually just doing the dang job.
I thought that was interesting that it actually slowed them down versus kind of speeding them up. But
so I thought about this a lot, and so Sean had an issue in the forums this week. He was like, I started doing it with AI and asking it questions, and then I decided I'd just write the code myself. And I got a chuckle out of that because that's my experience with PageMotor right now. Like I can have an AI write me like options, frameworks, and all this stuff that works in PageMotor because it's so patternized. I can have it do that. But honestly, what I have to provide is so simple anyway. I might as well just type the damn thing in. Like I can see some scenarios like when you're doing stuff at volume or when you're trying to piece together some stuff and you already have that, you got this AI framework in place where it's going to spit out the right thing. At that point, that will be valuable to do. But for right now, it's just a novelty. Like you would do it because you want to see this thing spit out the right thing, not because it's actually faster.
Yeah.
At some point it will be, and it will make sense. But right now it's more of a novelty.
So it lacks the critical reasoning needed for the database schema design, system logic, or challenging implicit assumptions. And then McKinsey says that 1% of companies feel AI mature, reinforcing the need for human architectural oversight. So it goes back to it's amazing time to be a great coder right now because AI is not going to write the code that you want really for you.
Well, I made this point on X this week, and I think this is really a larger topic. I should probably hammer this a lot more, but I call it the Great Refactoring. And the Great Refactoring is upon us. And I mentioned this last week. I didn't call it the Great Refactoring, but here's what it is. Companies who are trying to leverage AIs are finding out that their systems suck. And the only answer, the only way out that matters is for them to refactor all their systems. Well, we could talk about all the jobs in development that are going to be lost, but why aren't people talking about this? These are jobs that are gained. These are conceptually high value, they're complex, they're thinkers' jobs. And we should be on an absolute manhunt right now to identify the best people to do this. And every company should be, dropping the bag in front of anyone who's capable of doing this or willing to take this on. I got news for you. Like I work in Paradise with PageMotor. I had to start with a clean slate. I didn't have any crap. But you go into company to refactor some of these systems, it stinks. You've got to unravel what is there. You've got to undertake a process that I call unthinking, where we've done it this way, but to actually get to the right answer, you got to unthink all these layers of crap and then turn it all into something new. Like that is a complex, hard job. That to me, that's the hardest job to do. I've done a bunch of that stuff with WordPress. I've done that in other circumstances. It sucks. It is difficult work for the brain, and it's difficult work for the soul because it's drudgery. It's bad. It's like, it's like dragging big old rocks up the pyramid. Like, I don't really want to do this. So
somebody in the chat said, kind of setting up your prompts to be the tough critic. Was it Ken? I think.
Yes.
And that's kind of what one of the points that I saw was that, can we build an AI that challenges us like a good senior developer would, right? And so like, is there just like, you just build a bot that automatically does that? Like, do you see this as like a plugin? Do you see like, how would that manifest in kind of, because not everybody, like this is a path that some people would go on and then discover that, it is a mirror. So why don't I, like, you can save somebody a lot of time by saying exactly what the guys are saying. Like, it's going to say exactly what you wanted to say. Here's how I can save you, months of bloated work or whatever. Like, is there something that we can do to solve that?
Well, here's what I'm thinking. Later in the show, we've got some notes about companies receiving funding for AI ventures.
Yep.
And those numbers are eye-popping. And because of that, I think I'm just going to go in the show here in just a few minutes and go start a company called Contrarian.ai, whose sole purpose is to talk shit about whatever input you gave it. And I'm going to be $30 billion richer in a couple of weeks. And maybe that was the play all along.
Oh, that's funny. All right. That's good. But we'll get to the
Somebody needs to be doing this though. It's probably happening. There's too much validation. Like you can only do this for a little while and be like, oh, really? Come on.
Okay, who's gonna do that? Go do that. All right, moving on. This was a great topic, and I appreciate all the comments. This is so fun to have an engaged conversation. Another topics that came up in the forums was the cautionary tale about LLM development. So do you want to talk about the background, or do you want me to kind of sum it up?
No, I'll do it. So basically the deal is if you try to build with an AI or an LLM.
This was an actual example of what happened in the forum. So
yeah, so we've got Ken, Sean, Casey, Volker, some others in the Page Motor forums building plugins using AI to build plugins and see what's possible. And Ken has had a very ambitious venture making what's essentially a Gravity Forms type plugin for Page Motor, but he's been using the heck out of LLMs to do this. It's great. And what has happened is that it's done a lot of the basics, like where Page Motor has specific requirements for things that you need to do. It's done all that stuff great. It's even captured some stuff that I think is pretty high level and pretty amazing. But the functionality that he's trying to put into that plugin, it goes well beyond like established guardrails. And where it has deviated from those guardrails, the LLM just goes crazy. It just spins up this mountain of crap. And there's never, so like one of the things that happens, it puts out like, 2,500 lines of code. Well, one thing you have to do if you're actually developing software is to reconsider every bit of that code and think about the following things. Is anything being repeated? Are there any processes that are about the same that are being repeated? Where can this code that's used here, can this be used elsewhere? Is this a one-off? If so, how do we deal with that? These are the high-level questions that real developers have to ask to make a software tight. And the LLMs are just not doing this. Because I think they think in terms of, this is the problem I'm solving right here. It's not a holistic thing like, here's all the problems I'm solving. If you ask me to solve this one problem, oh, by the way, I need to loop back through and check the relevance to everything else. Like that is I don't think we give enough credit to how high level some of these functions that we undertake when we build or curate or do any of that stuff. I don't think we give enough credit to how much is really going on there mentally. This will come up again later with the new ChatGPT thing. But
so how do we avoid the AI code bloat trap? What are your tips on that?
How do we avoid the code bloat trap? Well, so last week we talked about like problem in, problem out. Like one thing, try to do one thing, get the solution back out. So that's the approach you got to take with the LLMs if you want them to do anything for you. And then when you get the one thing back, you incorporate it into your environment. You then have to check that against the larger environment. I do think it's worth, like for a hobbyist, somebody who wants to tinker with this and improve these models, I think it's worth it to have it try to run a little algo to check it if you want to blow tokens on that. I do think it's a worthwhile endeavor, but you should do it too, though, so you know what, like, is this thing giving me realistic results? Is it doing a good job of this refactoring process? But again, you're not saving any work. You're actually just trying to make the AI better, which is actually more work. It's another layer of work. So again, it's do one thing, be very specific. This is another theme. Specificity is king. And you've always got to check it against everything else. Like there's no getting around this for now. I think there's situations in the future when let's say you work at some company and your company has these systems and you've refined and rebuilt your systems to take advantage of this AI landscape. I do think those companies and those pieces of software will reach a point where they can rely on the LLMs more heavily. But we're talking a whole bunch of work to get there. A lot of infrastructure.
So there's 5 things that because obviously, guys, I use AI to get ready for this meetings. But one of the 5 things that they kind of popped up when I was running this through was that over-reliance on AI tools can be risky. So I think you kind of talked about that. Rapid prototyping leads to code-based bloat. I'm not sure if you mentioned that, but do you want to talk more about that?
That was what we just kind of covered.
And then snowballing issues from lack of oversight. So you kind of talked about that. And then the need to step back for clarity, mentioned that. And then committing to better practices moving forward. So kind of learning from that process. So is there anything else that kind of came to your mind as we talked about that? Because you were
I think we're going to get into the tangential topics coming up in some of these segments. So it'll be interesting tie-in.
But thanks. I mean, this was an awesome eye-opening topic to kind of look at that, because there's so much excitement about, oh my God, AI is going to solve all our problems. And then you look at it and you're like, well, is it? But you still have to think.
I'm Mr. Pump the brakes on this one. You know, it's fun to talk about. It's cute, but like, I have to be honest about the reality of the situation. Like, we got to build a lot.
Right. Okay. Let's move on. One of the topics that was interesting from this week in the news was that Anthropic just surpassed OpenAI in the 8.4 billion enterprise market. So what is happening is that more and more enterprise companies are relying on Anthropic versus ChatGPT. And what they're saying is that enterprise budgets for large language models have more than doubled in the recent months, climbing from 3.5 billion in 2024 to 8.4 billion by mid-2025. And projections suggest that it could approach 13 billion by the end of the year. It's insane how much money is being pumped into this right now. Then they talked about how Anthropic now commands 32% of enterprise LLM usage, surpassing OpenAI, which has fallen from 50% in 2023 to just 25% today. Google follows with 20%, and Meta's Llama 9%, and then there's DeepSeek with about 1%. So what do you think? I know it's a lot of numbers, but what does that tell you about all of this?
So number one, companies are going all in on this, all in on trying to, what gains can we make with AI? That's what they want to answer. I can go ahead and fast forward this to the future for you. Here's the end game. We've already talked about it. They're the great refactoring. The great refactoring is the answer to all these initiatives. They're going to spend all this money to figure out that their systems stink and they all need to be refactored to take advantage of this landscape in a much more powerful way.
So on the contrarian, AI needs to be existing today.
It should be existing yesterday.
So in coding related tasks, Anthropic is especially dominant, and Claude, obviously the Claude models now account for 42% of enterprise usage, dwarfing OpenAI's 21%. So I thought that was interesting. I mean, I know like we got a lot of people here using Claude, but I mean, do you think it's gonna continue this trend of Claude absolutely surpassing OpenAI? Or I know we're gonna talk about ChatGPT's just came up with the five model. We're gonna talk about that in a little bit. But what are your thoughts about all these numbers?
I think right now it says that companies who are serious, there's serious investment in this. I think the operators who are playing with this feel like they are getting better results from Claude. We brushed up against this personally with some of the page motor stuff. It's not exclusively better, but in terms of some specific contextual things and actually picking up, this is how this environment works, I feel like Claude is superior right now. So I think this is just an echo of that. But do I think this trend will continue? No, I think it's going to be an arms race. You know, it's like this car gets the lead. Now this car gets the lead. You know, it's going to keep happening. You know, I'm not sure like the fulcrum, like what is the main thing these models need? Like what does this all hinge on to really make one pop versus another? Like ChatGPT 5, we're going to talk about this, but like that model still does not have, I don't know what they call it, but like the term to be able to get immediately relevant information. Like what's new on the internet today? GPT still does not have access to that. Grok does. That matters in certain fields, but also like with GPT, it is a limiting factor, but like does code stuff really change day to day? Not really. So like maybe it's not necessary in that environment, but if you're talking about something about current events, a political tool, something like that, I would say GPT is massively hamstrung and Grok should just destroy in that competition because it has access to real world sentiment that's changing all the time.
Because enterprise market is like a catnip for investors, right? So they all want, you know, the companies, if there's enterprise budgets, because that's a lot of money. And so if the money is now moving to Claude, I'm also wondering if their sales team is better as well. But I don't know.
I like it. That'd be interesting to know.
That's a whole other conversation because somebody is pushing, or I mean, maybe it's driven by developers and they're just saying, no, I need this versus that.
There's a whole lot with like I've seen the vibe thing play out with developers for over 20 years. And it really matters. If like prevailing sentiment is that you need to use Claude, well, that's who they're going to be. They're talk to the project manager and say, let's just get on this. And there's no friction, so they do that, and that's what happens.
I want to know what their budgets are. That's going to be interesting. Maybe they'll find out for our next call. How much are they spending on the average? So one of the interesting things that again we're scouting for all the new tools and all the new things that are kind of appearing in this week. There's this company called Poe. I hope I'm pronouncing.
It's actually Quora, and that's their AI model.
Of course, Poe, P-O-E. Not sure I'm loving the name, but it's releasing an API for developers to easily access a bouquet of models. So it's offering access to over 100 text, image, video, and voice AI models. So clearly that's a trend, but what do you what do you think about all of that? What does that mean for developers?
So when I see Quora, I immediately think the following. It is probably at best, the third best Q&A information seeking engine on the internet. I'd say number one is Stack Exchange, which is primarily developer and code focused, but it's a really great Q&A. Like almost all of my coding queries have a suitable answer on Stack Exchange, a suitable, reliable answer. The second best place for this, it's a cesspool, but it's true, is Reddit. Reddit is a good Q&A medium.
You have a love-hate relationship.
I mean, freaking Reddit, whatever. Avoid if you can, but sometimes there's answers there. And then I'd say Quora is a distant third to those two. So to me, Quora launching an AI tool is a last gasp at relevance. Quora kind of was designed to take advantage of the search query landscape, which we already talked about is a find function. And it's well positioned for the Q&A format of the future. And this is their attempt to kind of seize on that. But I think they have a paywall that's always limited their reach, and they need to rethink that whole thing. Maybe there's something there.
We want to bring all the good, the bad, and the ugly, so our audience can see like what exactly is happening. So like,
yeah, oh yeah.
Clearly,
I think it's interesting that they're still trying to do something. I can't believe they're relevant.
Everybody's climbing the mountain for sure. So one of the speaking of being relevant, Amazon's Kyro, however you pronounce that. I guess that's their version of they're coming up with something for developers as well. They redefine AI IDEs.
Yep.
The spec-based UI generation and debugging. So what does it tell you? What does that mean? And how much should we care?
So an IDE is like the environment within which you develop. So a developer uses an IDE to perform their task. So what this is doing, it's like sort of like a Photoshop for development, where you would choose like, okay, add this layer and the AI will spit out like this stuff, or like do this type of routine and the AI will spit that out. So it's like you've got a code library at your fingertips, a generative code library at your fingertips. That's the thinking. Now, again, whether or not this is put together in a holistic way that makes any damn sense at all, I don't know. But there's attempts being made. And there's going to continue to be attempts made in all these areas. Like I said, all this money, this like R&D type money is being spent on what gains can we get from AI.
But why is Amazon getting into that? Like that's kind of
So Amazon has somebody help me out with their servers stuff. The developers pull up servers on Amazon all the time.
What are you talking about?
What is it?
Is AWS? I mean, they've got
AWS stuff. So the whole AWS product suite. Developers are using this. There's caching. There's all this stuff. So this is another layer of integration where it's all together. So it's like your hosting, your development environment, the whole thing. Now you got the IDE in there with the generative code. So ideally, like if I want to develop, that we want developers saying, I want to develop, I get into my Amazon stack, my Amazon suite, and I do it all right there. I've got everything I need. I don't personally operate that way, but I can see why they're making.
So it's just like additional revenue stream that they're creating in this opportunity.
You want developer lock-in in the sense that you want them feeling like they have to have your stuff to be able to do what they do.
If anybody's going to use it, I'm really curious to hear about that.
Oh, it'll be pretty big. I think it's a lot more common in companies and stuff.
Do you think developers still need IDEs, or do you think our CMS will be the next gen?
This is an interesting little discussion. I'm surprised this came up. I don't remember what show was that. Was that on Syntax?
No, this is still from the news of the Kyro.
Oh yeah. So the question is, do developers still need IDEs, or is this all going to happen inside CMSs? And I think this is sort of based on like what's happening with the WordPress block editor. And I think the page motor peeps have experienced similar things, at least with how much you can put together just by using the software. And like, imagine if there was, like a page you could go to, like you add a plugin and you go to the page for the plugin and you're entering prompts and stuff to create more plugins.
Yeah.
Or to create like another one could be like, you have a plugin that uses an LLM and it says, identify, here's my topic, here's what I'm working on. Tell me what I need to do on my site. Like, what pieces of content do I need to make? How should these pages work? You could have something that answers those questions that's baked right into the environment. And then there's a larger discussion here, and I might be getting ahead of myself, but like I imagined years ago that with Thesis for WordPress, that it could really be like your life command module, but it lived on your website. So you could access it from anywhere at any time you wanted. You could have everything you wanted to do in there. All your initiatives. You could even have like banking stuff in there theoretically, but like it's a one-stop management system for your whole life. And it could be scaled down to just stopping that from being like your dashboard for your business, which covers an array of functions that goes well beyond just publishing to a website. But I do think that's the future. I think that's the future because consolidation of all these different things. We now pay for, so another topic I love is subscription fatigue and service fatigue. Like, we have all this crap in all these different places. Like, I'm sick of it. I got 400 logins and all these disparate services. I can't stand.
Well, and
I just want to go to my damn website.
you still have to authenticate yourself with the email and the text and this. And I'm like, I already gave him a password. I mean, come on, how many more authentications do I need? So it's been super annoying.
Fact.
Somebody sold it.
I mean, I still want a life control module or just a business control module in my website dashboard in the admin. Like, that is happening. So this IDE consolidation, I think, is reflective of a larger series of trends. And
right.
that, to me, that seems like a really sensible place for it.
So
I'm sure X would probably say differently, and it should be in your X account. But we'll see what happens.
With all the news, Amazon's, would you say Kyro or Kyro? How would you say?
I said Kyro.
Amazon's Kyro on the big scale of things is not super high up there with other topics.
It's probably Kyro. If it ends in a vowel, the first vowel is supposed to be long.
This is the
We're
problem
not doing English here,
already.
though.
Anyway, moving on. The next kind of trend from this past week was voice, speed, and UX is the new trifecta. So the future of web isn't just visual, it's conversational and blazing fast. So one of the interesting things that I found out is, I already told you this, but imagine I didn't. Guess how many users use voice search daily?
It's hard for me not to guess the number. I
I know, I already told you.
Apparently it's 50%.
50% of users use voice search daily, which is interesting. And NLP optimization is rising. So what does that mean to you? And what does that mean for web development and AI and all of that stuff?
Well, I thought about this. I'm not really sure what it means for web development because, like, for example, if you go to a search field on a website, it doesn't have to have any special programming to be voice enabled. If you visit that on your phone, for example, you got the option to use voice input in that field.
Okay.
I think it ties into the earlier discussion about Q&A and AI stuff. So, like, if AI is examining the results of voice dictation, you're going to get richer answers than if you're just using a basic find, because voice stuff is going to be more verbose than something you would type, probably, and it's going to contain more junk words. So if you're just doing a basic find on voice dictated stuff, it's probably going to be pretty gross, probably pretty kludgy. But if you have that, if what's surveying those results is AI, then we have a different ballgame. So, for example, like WordPress basic search is just a primitive find search.
Right.
what we need is an AI enhanced search capability on websites. Like that's key. I don't know if it's still a thing. You used to be able to do Google custom search, and it would use Google to search your website instead of the primitive function that was built in. Maybe that's enhanced with AI now. I have to play with that again, but I'd be curious to see. Maybe that's what will be the first stopgap measure, is these, Bing, Google will offer a way for you to embed that AI search capability into the website.
Well, and especially with the kind of the audio search, right? The voice search, I can see how it's a good fit for like the senior people who don't want to like necessarily type, or they just like can speak it into, and also children, right? Children can push that button and search for whatever they want, so that would be interesting. I'm not saying
I can't see any problems with that.
I'm not saying we should be letting our kids doing that, but one of the things they talked about is that voice is now UX critical, especially on mobile, which kind of what you mentioned. And so PageMotor could integrate voice-ready templates for podcasters, wellness, for food pros, and combining voice plus AI-enhanced visual UX gives creators a powerful conversion edge. So what do you think about that? Because there's going to be some industries that this will be very crucial, right? Like coaches, restaurants.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what that really means, but one way that I can kind of imagine it would be like, if you're in the PageMotor admin, you give voice commands about where you want to go and what you want to do instead of clicking around a bunch. I see that. Like, okay. I'm not sure what it would take to get there. I kind of feel like it wouldn't be that much, but I would need a way to tap into an LLM that's been trained on this. Like, it's kind of like an agent for just this. And I think you would need a way to like programmatically add that in. But then once you have that, you could just access that with this voice thing. It'd be very intriguing to mess with.
Right. Well, the voice, I also think, depending, like I have an accent, so like I wonder if my voice is going to be obviously taken differently than somebody else's voice that is more native. And how does that all mean? Like when I am recording a message, like when I'm recording a text message, like saying it, the spoken speech is not as amazing as I'm like writing a text message. And so I wonder what you were talking about. The conversational searches are a little bit different than.
Yeah, you would need to run that through an AI processor. You couldn't just do a basic find. It would be it's
well, it's a trend. We're gonna talk about it because that's like.
Oh yeah, no, it's happening. I think voice control, like, yeah, that's going to be a thing, and that's going to be preferred by tons of people.
Right. Cool.
I mean, the trend has always been like, I don't want to write code. I don't want to deal with a complicated interface. Well, dang it, you don't want to do anything. You just want to speak and have your wishes met. I get it. Everyone wants to be the Shah or the freaking, the ruler in Aladdin sitting on his chair getting waved by the palm fronds and stuff. Bring me grapes. I want my grapes.
So speaking of money moving, OpenAI raises $8.3 billion at $300 billion valuation. So they are continuing to expand. And the question that I wanted to find out is that, are you concerned about AI centralization at all? Will only big players benefit? And like, what does that mean? Because I know how much you love centralization.
This topic, so I'm making some peace with this topic. So I'm a decentralization fan. I'd much prefer decentralization to centralization. There's a number of reasons. Centralization is primarily a function of business. It is a way to capture more interest and more money, more power. I feel like it's a little bit insidious, but it's really not that bad. It makes sense for businesses. But what it does do is it constrains outcomes. It constrains outcomes because you have a ton of the resources tied up within these individual systems, and innovation, it's harder to innovate within that construct. So if the whole thing's decentralized, theoretically, you've got more innovation happening and more stuff can be captured over time. It should be more efficient. But I'm not worried about centralization in the AI space, because there are open initiatives, which we're going to hit on in just a moment, where the same computing power is going to be accessible to hobbyists as to companies with unlimited money to spend on these initiatives. And as long as that's the case, or indeed as long as stuff is available to run a sophisticated model on that you can train, like if people can access this at all in an independent way, then the possibility still exists to make the kind of gains that I want to see, where innovation is not constrained by existing corporate constructs. So I'm not super concerned about that. And like I said, this problem is not AIs or how they're trained or any of that stuff. The problem is the building of the highways.
Right.
And so money that goes into these AIs, whether it be centralized money or decentralized money, to me, it only says we are going to get to this realizing what a big problem the highway problem is faster.
Got it. All right. Now, speaking of OpenAI, so OpenAI and NVIDIA draw blazing fast open weight models.
This.
So what is that? So they talk about models offer 1.5 million tokens per second, performance and run an open infrastructure, ideal for developers avoiding vendor lock-in, and reinforces a shift toward developer-first AI integration that's both fast and flexible. So what does that really mean? And like, would you trust open models over proprietary giants for a CMS or dev tools?
Open is such an insidious term. In this case, what I think this means, and anyone who knows better, please correct me. Here's what I think it means. I think it means they would sell that computing power to Claude or to Anthropic or to Gemini or to whomever wanted to use it. It is not proprietary to any one of them. They are not going to restrict that to any one provider. No one can buy them out. It does not mean, I guess it means anyone who could pay for it could get access to some of that computing power. So I think that's what open means there. It certainly does not mean just open to everybody for free all the time, come use my power. And I think, I've not dealt with any like LLM construction or anything like that, so I don't know about that token usage, but the 1.5 million tokens per second is obviously some sort of measure of their computational power. Probably means something to like Gemini. The engineers probably know like, oh my God, that's 5x what we have access to right now. So this looks really good. So that would mean if they're charging customers for $40 a month or whatever it is, $40 for a certain amount of tokens, that they could lower their costs by 5x and maybe lower the cost for customers, probably not, but they could offer more, it changes their business.
Why do they do that? What's in it for them?
What's in it for who?
OpenAI and NVIDIA. Like, why are they doing that?
Oh, well, they want to push the boundaries. They want to be the ones everyone's relying on to do this AI thing. It's like you want to have the chips that everyone's using to mine Bitcoin. That's what sent NVIDIA stock through the roof and has made them super relevant for the last decade. And this is the next frontier. This is relevance.
So that's the pro, and what's the con?
I think the cons here are really wonky. I don't really think there is a con. I think some people be like, oh, well, NVIDIA just takes Taiwanese stuff and resells them. And if they keep innovating, what if China gets access to all this computing power and does nefarious things? They're like, whatever, man. That's life. That's life. If you don't innovate, you die.
They're just trying to put their stake in the ground that's the place for developers to come and like make this relevant versus kind of have a closed playground.
Well, so like, I don't know if this is how it works. I'm just citing this as an example. XAI has this data farm building with all their GPUs and stuff in Memphis. I think they're running NVIDIA stuff. I'm pretty sure they bought a bunch of NVIDIA chips. They're saying they're not running a proprietary network there. Like the X's might be proprietary. Like what they're doing, what they built on that, and how their computation stuff happens, that might be proprietary. They're not selling that to anybody else. They're developing this in-house. These open models, because they're open to everybody to buy and presumably provide feedback on, and there's pressure like to make it do better, there's some thinking that, well, this was going to result in better outcomes because there's more pressure to perform.
Gotcha.
Versus if you're just in-house, you kind of got all the diseases that you have in-house and kind of hard to overcome those.
How is this relevant to page to the people that we work with? Is there any relevance, do you think?
I think there's relevance in the sense that so one of the big topics, and I didn't hammer this hard enough this week. I want everyone to be thinking, when you think about AI, I want you to think about limitations. And I don't want you to see those limitations as a problem. I want you to see those as the ticket to better outcomes. Without these limitations, we don't get better. The output from the models doesn't get better. The speed and efficiency of the models doesn't get better. The limitations are the thing. This is what is magical about AI. It's limiting what we can give it if we want good output, we are limited in what we can give to the AIs, what we must do. It's about the building the highways. And the limitations are forcing us to get better at every step of the process. So the limitations that exist with the hardware capacity, which is kind of what this is, they're saying, well, we've upped the limit. And then Claude, last week had introduced its limits to usage.
Yep.
So these limits are great because the only way to overcome them is to do better. And these are hard caps. Like, you can't get around this. This isn't like processing power is just going to keep increasing so you can keep being a bloated mess. Like, everything about AI limitations says you have to do better. I love it. I'm absolutely in love with it.
That's your love language. Yep.
It is.
I love it.
Give me some limits. Make sure you have to do better.
Gotcha. There's some comments. You want to kind of answer those before?
Yeah, so Casey says his fear is that they'll become the Google of AI, which will kill innovation competition like what happened with the great browser wars back in the day. I see that. So, but like I said, they're calling this an open model, which means, to me, it means, I need correction if anyone knows better. I think that means they're going to sell to everybody. Carla says our audio is breaking up constantly. I hope is it mine, Carla?
You sound pretty good to me. I don't know if mine is breaking
up. Anyway, I'll keep talking.
Let us know if anybody else is having an issue, but
yeah. So anyway, the open models suggest to me they will sell to anybody who is running LLMs, and that is their way of not becoming the Google, because they're saying we're selling to everybody. If they want to do this with it or they want to do that with it. But I still think Beauty Brain says yes, it's my audio. Well, let's figure something out there.
Well, now it's you muted.
Now I'm muted, so I can't fix it this week. But we'll try to figure that out for next week.
Maybe you're too close to the microphone. I mean, I don't know.
My computer sucks too, so that's probably part of the deal. Anyway, I don't think there's quite that same fear of monopolization, but I also think we need to see a chip provider come up to compete, and I think we probably will. The problem is that all that manufacturing has been reduced to China and Taiwan, and I think we need some U.S.-based manufacturing of that. The EU has had some energy concerns, so they've killed that innovation for years. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see a shift in manufacturing in the next 20 years. I do think there's a need for it. There's some pressure. These limitations are going to make that more real. So maybe something will come of that. We'll see.
Okay, and then try to move your microphone a little further away, please. Let's see if that's going to help it, because it catches. Yep. Well, now you're muted. I don't think you connected it right away.
How about now?
I mean, the whole way. Yeah, great. Just move it a little further, because you're too loud.
Such cases.
At least, well. Anyway, let us know if it's better. Hopefully it is. All right, let's move on. So the segment that I liked on the Syntax show, they are, I like those guys, Wes and Scott. They've got some really cool information that they're sharing every week. And the topic of this week that caught my attention was something that you talk about a lot, is the RSS. So they talked about RSS Reborn, the quiet revolution behind the next web. And they said that isn't just back. The RSS isn't just back. It's part of a broader shift away from algorithm-dominated platforms towards self-owned, streamlined stacks. The developer underground is rediscovering how powerful DOM syndication becomes when paired with AI-enhanced tools, and that creates a major opportunity space that PageMortar is already built for. So kind of talk about why is it resonating again, and kind of what does that mean, and is AI plus RSS kind of a new big stack?
So I love RSS. I think of the last 20 years, this has been the most underutilized thing on the entire internet that should have crushed. Social media could have been done through RSS, and we all could have been our own decentralized publishing nodes. We could have published to our websites, and that could have populated a universal feed, and we all could have communicated back and forth that way. It could have worked that way. The alternative was what we have, this centralized thing where we all have to go to X, or we all have to go to Facebook, because that was how those companies could be built. and matter. But this whole thing could have been done in a decentralized way with a couple of glue pieces. And, I built something like this called Focus Omni Tweet that people can still play with for Focus, my WordPress product. And it was really cool. You could create your feed on your website and then cross-publish to Twitter at the time if you wanted. Now, they've killed their API capability, so that's no longer possible. But you can still create a feed on your website, your pages that way, and that's another topic I'll be dealing with later in the future. That's pretty cool. But RSS made that possible. Now, why it's coming back into vogue is because anything that is published via RSS can be read by AI. And because it's an RSS feed, there's new stuff coming into the feed every time something's published. So the AI can know, oh, I've already read all this stuff from this website, but oh, here's a new item. And so it can deliver like a summary or a digest of everything that you've subscribed to. Mm-hmm. Articles, and even pick out you might say there's specific keywords of interest to me, pick out everything that deals with this. And it could deliver you like a summary every day. Imagine you could log into your website on this Life app I've described. Every day you log in and boom, you've got everything that's relevant right there from like the last 24 hours. You can see all that stuff and access it and realize this is what I want to go surf. It's like even so social media is like a bunch of one-off, like quick, pithy thoughts. Occasionally people have threads that are sophisticated. And the threads are valuable. And that's what content on websites is. It's like a thread. So the RSS is a shortcut to the valuable content. So that's a real time saver for people who are serious operators and want actual information. This represents a great opportunity.
So one of the tools that talk, and you know what? Can you make sure your YouTube you close your YouTube tab maybe?
My YouTube's not open like that. That would be super stupid of me.
Well, I'm just troubleshooting, and sometimes it's
no. My computer sucks. I have 500 tabs open. My camera sucks. I need a new camera. I'm probably going to the store later.
Okay, so they talked about Miniflux and Wallabag. Do any of them run any bells? Those are the tools that they kind of talked about implementing to create, but there's also there's a bigger opportunity for somebody to create something like that. For example, for this show, I have a gazillion newsletters that I'm getting about the latest of AI and WordPress and all that stuff. And then I sit down and I put all of the newsletters through my little bot that I built that I asked to look for relevant information for the show, for our audience that will be interested in why it's relevant. So right now, AI does some of the work, but I still manually have to put all these newsletters in. And so, thanks, Beauty Brains. So what I'm saying is that I see the need for me because there's a lot of newsletters I read, and I love this stuff. It's very interesting. But how do we is there a way right now to sort of, because I get the AI part, how do I get all those newsletters coming in and streaming through to my little bot that will do the work?
So
am I in the right neighborhood, or am I completely
No. So there used to be a service called Feed something. I used to use this, but you do all your RSS subscriptions, you put them all in there, and then you could go there for a summary. And that's how you used it, okay? So what this little article described is you use a $5 VPS, which is a little server. You put Miniflux on it, which I guess is some little app. And then you also use that wallet whatever, which is a feed collector. Mm-hmm. And you can run it that way, and I guess it'll spit out summaries of all the
I'm gonna try that this week. Okay. And then the AI will, my little bot will just run through it.
Yeah. Do what?
And my little bot can just pick it up and run through it if I tie it in. This is
so I'm not really sure there, but there's probably some capability like that. Or you could point the bot to it and say, hey, here's my feed. Check it out.
Yeah, gotcha. I'm going to try it out because this is interesting. You talk about outer SaaS, it's coming back. Is there opportunity for that kind of to build something on Pagemotor like that, or any opportunity for the audience?
Pagemotor needs to spit out an XML feed for all the content you create on your site. That definitely needs to happen. And I cut a couple corners there. I have to go back and patch that up because I was like, yeah, I won't need this. And I'm like, oh, I actually do need this. Because it's kind of been associated with blogs and with a chronology, but it doesn't have to be like that. You can still put a date on a page. It just meant, okay, this was created on July 25th. This was on August 7th, whatever. Doesn't matter. You can do that. You can add that to anything. But so the website needs to spit out an RSS feed of the content you create. And then anyone using this now has the feed that's accessible to everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And so really what the question is like, what is going to be the thing that everybody uses to view these feeds? Again, I prefer a decentralized approach here. Like PageMotor should have a plugin that does this and consolidates it. And then you go into your admin and you got like a dashboard for all that stuff.
Wait, you think that you can build a plugin that will do this?
Oh, 100%. It's not even complicated.
Okay.
Not even
Can we bump it up? Because I'd love that.
Yeah, we'll bump that up to the priority thing. But like that's right there. Like any information that's output via API or some kind of feed should be accessible on your website dashboard. Like it's theoretically right there.
I don't know about you all, but I get a ton of newsletters that I don't read. And so I have to like separate them and based on my interest level, but this will really help me out to get what's relevant to me only without reading a gazillion other things that overwhelm my brain. But that's
so who's the guy from HubSpot? Dharmesh.
Yeah.
Described in his thing. He's got a pretty complicated setup for doing exactly that, for parsing all the information that comes to him and identifying what is relevant. But this would be a way for like a normal person to actually achieve something similar.
That's what I love. All right, moving on. Another show that I checked out this week that seemed interesting and relevant to the audience was WP Product Talk. There was Brian Gardner from WP Engine Frost, Mike McAllister, Oli WP, Matt Cromwell, Stellar WP, and Zach Katz, Gravity Kit. So they talked about this interesting topic, I guess, which was block themes, potential versus reality. So this is about WordPress, I'm guessing specific, part. Have you heard anything about it? They kind of talked about the WordPress identity crisis. There's a tension between catering to DIY users and supporting professional developers. They are pushing for FSE.
Full site editing.
Full site is user-centric but lacks mature infrastructure for advanced builders. And so kind of what do you know about this block themes and what does that mean, and does it even matter anymore? Like, what are your thoughts about it?
Well, their discussion touched on all the real points for WordPress right now. Everything that's relevant. They touched it all. So the block theme ecosystem suffers from slow adoption due to poor developer experience and a lack of tooling from professionals. What you see, if you survey the video content, social media content, you see developers complaining about what a pain in the ass it is to work with this. And then if you survey the other side of this, you see agencies saying, well, all my clients come back to me saying they just want a damn short code. They don't want to deal with the block editor. Like, just give me, I used to have something that was easier. Now you're asking me to fiddle with this. And so, like, they didn't say it directly. They were kind of focused on the developer side of things, but it's not working for developers because all you see is bitching. It's not working for users because it's too complicated. And like nobody even seems to be acknowledging the user side of things. Like, this sucks for users. A normal user wants to write in a word processor, and you're giving him like the controls to the Apollo mission with all these knobs and shit. Like, what are we supposed to do with this? So that initiative is a failure because it's not working for anybody. Like, they could pick a side and do better. Like, okay, we're just going to help developers. Okay. But they haven't done that. And they can't do that. Like, it's just not good. So they touched on that. The next thing, they're saying that, like, the way themes work, WordPress relies on themes, and themes all do things differently. This is a problem you cannot overcome. If themes do things differently and blocks are built to work a certain way, well, if they change the theme, then the block may not work anymore. So the implication is you can never change your theme. Or maybe the implication is you probably shouldn't. And if the implication is that you probably shouldn't, well, that suggests the existence of a unified theme design language, some unifying thing. Well, that kind of turns the whole WordPress paradigm on its head. What the heck do we do? I've taken the approach with PageMotor for now. It is an interim approach that you should just stick with the one theme that comes with it for now. It can be manipulated to look in different ways. It can be whatever you want, but there's some bones in there that would be really stupid to try and replace. Like, you're giving up too much. It's not worth it. If you want to change the design, you don't give up all the bones because you wanted a little, put a little bit different makeup on it. That's stupid. So for now, that's the reality is one theme to rule them all makes the most sense because you're dealing with an integration picture, not just the theme. Because things have to be integrated, you have a lot more problems that need to be solved. So that's the deal with the full site editing. They're running into that and they're realizing, oh crap.
Yeah, they're talking about absence of proper version control, poor plugin integration with the block experience.
Yeah, that to me, that's too wonky. Now that's making a really hardcore full developer experience right there in the editor.
Well, and with impending AI integration, the issue was the WordPress core is preparing to integrate AI capabilities. Those already use block themes will be best positions to benefit, but themes and plugins that don't adopt FSC may miss these enhancements. What? Like, what does that even mean?
That's just marketing jargon. I mean, the reality is, so we talked about this last show, but WordPress is not patternized in a way that allows it to be able to leverage AI. And so that says, okay, we need translators to speak to WordPress. The AI can speak a unified language to the translators, and the translators can spit out all this idiosyncratic crap for WordPress. But even if you do that, you find out there's all these little warts that are going to pop up that you have to deal with. So you still can't really achieve a great solution. And that is a damning reality. This feels to me like the great refactoring. A lot of money, time, and energy is going to be spent on this, only to discover, oh crap, we can't really do what we'd like to be able to do.
So is WordPress's full site editing broken beyond repair, or is it just maturing too slowly?
In my view, it is broken beyond repair. If it were to work, it would have to be done completely differently. Someone who actually knows what the hell they're doing would have to redesign and rebuild the whole thing. The way that these components have to be built right now is such a joke. If you have built a plugin with PageMotor and used the valet methods, and then you were asked to go build a block for the full site editor, you'd be like, what am I even doing? What is this? What language am I speaking here? It's a mess. And so there's ways to build software to be extensible. And there's ways that just feel like it's all just hacked together with rusty nails and duct tape. And that is the WordPress experience. I think something like full site editing can work. Indeed, I'm playing with page builder type realities for PageMotor. Like, that's going to happen. But it's a complicated question, but also like the way that thing works, it's a very sensitive thing. Like, this has to be designed really, really well and implemented in a way that doesn't cause this, like, not really getting the job done for end users or developers. Like, what's even happening? These are tough design challenges, but the full site editing thing, totally JavaScript based, but that doesn't mean anything bad. It can be JavaScript based and be really good. The problem is it's not.
Well, and one of the things that made me kind of giggle is that why the next generation of CMS must bake in AI first thinking, not bolted on like WordPress plans. So like, it's an afterthought right now. They're trying to scramble versus like you said, how old is WordPress?
22 years old.
Right. So now they're trying to like patch it on and figure this out. Meanwhile, not to toot our own horn, but
I want to pull the curtain back on this just a little bit. So when we say stuff like, it's got to be built for AI, that's actually not true.
Okay.
It's not really built for AI. It's built to leverage patterns. That's what AI can do. So when we say built for AI, we really mean built in a super, super patternized way, extremely disciplined and refined. That's what it really means. When something is built that way, that's the right way, it can be leveraged by AI. It can be leveraged by anything that comes along in the future that excels at pattern recognition. And that is how you extend anything. If you want, so let's say you want to build anything. You want to build something magical. If you want to have infinite possible outcomes that can be built with this thing that you made, you need to have input an input system that can take very patternized, finite input and turn that into infinite output. The only way you can do that is through this leverage of patterns and a really refined system. That's the only way to do it. So the only way to build the right system happens to be the thing that works best with AI. Is that a coincidence? No, this is just the way the universe works.
Yeah. Well, you always say that the more complex the system, the fewer the rules, or something like that.
So if you want this, in order for a system to do more, it must have fewer rules. The more rules you apply to a system, the more constrained the output becomes. Yeah. It's an inverse relationship.
Which also sort of applies here too. So let's talk about money. So this past week, so I promised last week, I was gonna look at Crunchbase and see how many companies raised money. Now I'm only looking at the US. I probably should open up to the whole world and just kind of compare how US compares to Europe. Or in other regions in the world. So I'll do that for next time. But for this time, I looked it up, and I looked for July 30th through August 6th. So that was my kind of sample thing. And they were like over 90 companies that raised money. And I'm only looking at $1 million and above. Any kind of seed, first, second, all A, B, whatever rounds. And so out of 90 companies, 30% were AI companies. So 30% of companies that raised money this past week were AI companies. And the total funding received by AI companies, guess what it was? Well, you know the answer, but guess what it was?
I did my homework.
Yeah, I know.
$1 billion.
$1 billion. We're not counting ChatGPT, obviously. We're talking about this other companies and where the pie went. But so here's and that was also a third of funding. So
30% of all big investment money went towards AI-focused companies.
But the fund, so the number of companies was 30%, and the funding was about 30%.
Oh, okay.
Of overall kind of how much money was raised this past week. Again, in the States, I will adjust for the world and compare them. So some of the key takeaways that I saw was that AI is moving from foundational models to verticalized solutions, focused on specific workflows and user problems. What does that tell you? What does that mean to you?
So they are realizing that generalized AI doesn't really solve any specific problems. It doesn't really serve a purpose that can be leveraged for gain.
Okay.
When you want to start winning with AI, you have to get specific. That's the theme of this week's show.
Yeah.
And so these companies are realizing that. That's why investment dollars are flowing in those specific directions.
Then developer and creator tooling is getting major investment, especially tools that reduce friction in AI native experiences. And then edge deployment and low latency AI are gaining traction via custom hardware, indicating a future of local AI capabilities. What does this all mean? That's what actually money is going. So what does that mean to you?
So you know how we did like the whole smart home thing where we bring all this technology into the home, like the thermostat, the refrigerator, all that. This is just AI disseminating out in similar ways into more, day-to-day type usage, not just developers, not just like, in the search bar in Google. Where else can this be applied? The Internet of Things. This is the extension of that is the AI all the things.
So some of the companies, and again, I'll put that in the meeting notes. But developer and creator enablement. So two biggest companies that raised money was FAL.
Oh, FAL, FAL, yeah.
FAL AI. It empowers developers and creators to build generative AI native visual experiences. That's where money is going, you guys. And Anaconda remains the backbone for many data science and AI development workflows.
This is actually really cool. It's actually really cool. I saw some visualizations. This came on my radar for the first time this past week. But these data nerds were sharing really interesting visualizations they had made with something like Anaconda. It may have been Anaconda. I don't remember for sure. But I was like, dang.
Anaconda is actually here in Austin, believe it or not.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, these visualizations were striking. Like I think about illustrating concepts for people, like some coding concepts, that kind of thing. I'm like, a really cool visualization would be great here. And I played with AI to that, like terrible results. I've gotten nothing. But some of these platforms are promising for that kind of thing, like complex data visualization, conceptual visualization. So we're talking imagery and like little movies, animations. FAL generates images, branding assets, the videos and stuff for your brand, all that kind of thing. Like that, that's happening. That's really cool. It's a whole different playground, but it's very fascinating to me. I wish I had more time to be doing that. I do that all the time. Gotta sick my daughter on that.
Can just put a note. Many VCs who made their money through Bitcoin aren't that sophisticated, and just adding AI to a company name still pulls in funding. Absolutely. That's why
Contrarian.ai. You heard it here first.
But to me, like, showing how much money is flowing into these things is just like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So the other category that got a ton of money was productivity and workflow automation, like Clay, and I picked the biggest ones. Clay automates sales and outreach, optimizing GTM operations. And Ken, to your point, there's another thing that makes a lot of investors excited, anything to do with sales or any kind of outreach that's going to raise a ton of money without understanding what does that even mean. And then Sapphire uses AI to streamline complex trading workflows in finance. So sales, finance, those are the kind of industries where AI is going. And then applied AI over foundation models, investors are now prioritizing use case first AI tools over generalized models. Shocker.
There it is again.
From finance desks to content studios, AI is winning when it's invisible, solving a job, not selling a model. And this is why our show is called Practical AI, because I care about how do I use it in life and not just...
Yeah, it's not about like, oh, this could theoretically do this. Well, that's great.
So any thoughts about anything that surprised you in here? Like, was like shocking or, I don't know, interesting or not interesting, or just kind of...
I mean, the vibe feels like companies are scrambling to take advantage of AI however they can. It is not really taking the form of this job replacement boogeyman that gets thrown out there. It feels like there's a big acceleration. And that acceleration is taking us to the great refactoring. It can't go anywhere else. And I just think, like, it's all happening. Like whatever you think about AI, like really, it is unfolding. It is happening. And what's that really going to mean for you? Well, it's going to be different depending on, how you operate and how much you want to try and involve this stuff. But process flows, so there's a lot of investment into process flows within businesses regarding sales, regarding procedures, things like that. That does kind of affect some lower level people, but and then you've got like the augmentation layer for creatives, which is actually a really exciting area of AI. Like, I love the idea of creating like a 2-minute sales video or something using like real characters and people and creating beautiful visuals around that. That's something that really is hard to do and expensive to do, and not available to everyone. Like, I wouldn't even attempt this, but now, like, with these tools, like, oh, suddenly that's available. Like, that's really cool. And then like the whole nature of publishing changing is also fascinating, although that's not capturing the money that these other AI ventures are. But the bottom line is the great refactoring is going to lead everybody to a place where, oh crap, we need a better thing to feed this into. And that spells out great opportunities for things like PageMotor, any systems that are built to leverage patterns the right way.
I love it. Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Okay, last topic for today. It literally had to add it this morning after I saw the release of GPT-5, and I think it was released last night or yesterday. I refreshed my ChatGPT. I did not get access to that yet, but maybe. And I have a paid whatever work thing, and I don't know. I haven't seen it. I haven't played with it. But I'm curious, what do you think about kind of everything that's in the update? Do you want me to kind of read this through, or do you want to kind of talk about the topics?
Let me just bounce through here. I looked at this earlier in detail. It was pretty exciting. So it's available to everybody. Comes in a few flavors. Elevates reasoning, coding, multimodal processes like text, images, voice, maybe video, and factual accuracy. They claim that hallucination rates have dropped, which is like funky false output. Safe completions are introduced for sensitive queries. I don't love that. That basically means censorship. And there's a context-based routing system that dynamically chooses the best reasoning strategy. I wonder if that can be influenced, if you can say, hey, do this instead. But, you know, the reasoning is a big layer of problem solving for them. And then Sam Altman says that it is a significant step towards AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. And he likened it to having a PhD level expert in your pocket, yet emphasized it still lacks abilities like continuous learning. This specific quote is why I said earlier that it doesn't really have access, because it creates a socio-political risk. Grok is the only platform that's even sort of attempted to deal with this, but that's already backfired in their face. So this is like a big problem for AI, like constantly updating the model with new information. There's always going to be this risk that that information might be socio-politically damaging. So how do they deal with that? ChatGPT still says, well, we're going to get the model up to this point and we're going to kind of cap continuous learning because it's a problem. So we'll see what happens with that. I think in a lot of fields, continuous learning doesn't really matter. Like they could just, for every, it can be as much as like, okay, we've updated the model every 6 months. That's probably enough. But it's an interesting problem.
Well, so when it comes to GPT-5, it opens doors for AI augmented development workflows, rapid prototyping, and smarter code scaffolding to context-aware assistance across editing, deployment, and debugging. And I saw from the audience earlier in comments that I guess it's their answer to Anthropic's, Claude, and maybe competing because they're understanding they're losing their market share and they don't want to do that. And so maybe that's, I mean, obviously there's a lot of reasons, but I just thought that was interesting, and I cannot wait to hear how the testing goes in the forum, so we can talk about that next week.
Yeah. I want to make one more point about this. So I seen a couple pieces of content this week that were very interesting. It was people trying to use free or low-level LLM subscription type thing, so like the cheapest access you can get, and trying to produce results similar to those where you're paying a lot for the tokens and doing super premium access. And my takeaway, now this is without me having done it or really tested extensively, my takeaway was that the more patternized and documented the system that you're feeding this stuff into, the cheaper you can do all this. Maybe even using absolutely free models. The only thing you're not going to get there is like, your project where you've taught it this and then next session you pick it up and it's still got it. But like for my Grok, I think I pay $40 a month for X, and I think it's really mostly for Super Grok or whatever they call it now. And I like that. I'm pretty sure I can just use that $40 thing and get some amazing results. I need to play with it, but like it looks pretty promising. I saw some experiments done with that. I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm not sure this extremely transactional tokenization marketplace is necessary if the software you're feeding the data into is good enough to handle.
Well, one of the things it called as relevant to PageMotor was the opportunity for AI first CMS, that it could embed GPT-5 deeply, powering site creation, content, UX, and maintenance in one lightweight, intelligent engine. What do you think? I mean, if I understand this correctly, PageMotor you'll be able to choose any kind of AI provider to work with, right? It's not going to.
It really shouldn't matter. This is the thing.
Right.
If it's it's all about patterns.
Whatever works for you, that's what's going to be.
It's all about patterns. AIs do patterns. It really shouldn't matter. There's going to be like the preferential differences that we see in the marketplace is going to be like, well, Claude picked up on these little nuances and added these little sweet things that I would have to go back through and touch a bunch of lines of code. If Claude or one of these does that well, and that's a consistent thing that these people have to do, they'll choose that model every time. And that makes sense. Yeah. Like that's really where the differences should be in the end.
But because we saw that trend that Claude is, responsible now for 42% of enterprise use, and ChatGPT is 25% or whatever that was. And this is their response, I'm assuming, to bump it up, but they're catching up now. So I cannot wait to hear how the testing goes this week. We're wrapping this up. Are there any last minute thoughts? Do you want to read the comments right quick and just kind of address that?
I went through them. I think I addressed everything. Just good supplemental stuff. So the comments are available in the video. I think it's a good context add to the whole thing.
Yeah, Ken says that GPT-5 is a step forward, but not a huge one, though its code understanding has definitely improved in my limited testing.
It's
Interesting.
that car race. They're catching up a little
Right,
bit.
right,
That's
right.
great. The
And
arms
then
race
Sean
benefits us
said,
all.
I was given access last night, but then it was removed. Not available this morning. Yeah, the same thing for me. Like they're like, it's everybody, you know, can have it, but yeah. So let's see what the results are. This is fun. We're playing on the frontier, you guys. This is exciting, and I love preparing for the show. I learn something new all the time, and we have fun conversations. So, any last minute thoughts, Chris, to wrap this up?
I'm all out of thoughts.
Okay,
it's Friday.
What? That's new. And so on this note, you guys let us know, how is the topics? Has this been interesting, not interesting? Anything you want to add? My thought process, kind of every week I'm looking for trends and patterns and news and trends. That's kind of my thing. And then I compare them and see what's going on. And then I'm subscribed to a bunch of interesting AI newsletters where I'm constantly searching through what's relevant to us as we're building this amazing page motor and really practical AI. I care about using it. And so on this note, see you both at next IMP.
It's Internet Marketing Party. David
Gonzalez. Maybe we should do it, I guess.
Isn't it on Thursdays? But like if it's next Thursday, we'd actually be able to do it.
I know. Anyway, thanks guys. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, Sean.
It's been great.
Thanks, everybody.
And every Friday, 11 o'clock Central, join us and you will walk away with something helpful or useful to feel like you're staying on top of things, because there's a lot going on and it's moving super fast. So I'll see you all next time.
All right, see you, gang.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Ending.